This episode, we pull in Marcus to finish off our Vet Mode series. That and more on this episode of the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 380. And playing alongside me is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Hey, Max. Going pretty well. I've been playing a lot of SWTOR this past week. Mostly, I think, because of Galactic Seasons. Like, I've been sort of mixing Conquest. Well, everyone probably is mixing Conquest and Galactic Seasons, and it's kind of making me rethink how I do things a little bit. Like, yesterday I had a daily objective of doing 4 missions in Section X. So I'm not a fan of any of the missions in Section X. So I just did the heroic one on 4 different characters. So that left me with like 4 characters that have a little bit of work towards their conquest target. So now they'll be doing a little bit different than they would have done last week because they don't need as many points. And anyway, it's a new sort of wrinkle on the puzzle. So far, though, I'm enjoying it, but I'm taking a very mellow approach to Galactic Seasons because I'm just doing. Well, I've said this before. I'm just doing the ones that appeal to me, and if I don't make it to 100, then I'll think about it at the end. Maybe I'll pay something. I don't know, throw some cartel coins at it or whatever. But I don't want to be annoyed about it for the whole 5 months.
Yes.
So I'm just doing what I want to do.
And we'll get to it, but I am annoyed and I'm doing all of it. So we'll get to what that looks and sounds like.
In MFN this week, we did some Grease stuff. We did the Xeno Analyst, the Lair boss fight, and we did, I think, one of the world bosses, and the other one we never could catch. But then we did some other running around, killing some things, and we did a lot of killing on Ilum, which is great because we go in the heroic area. It's great for XP, so a lot of people, like levels were coming down on everybody like rain because double XP already started, so that was a fun night. And then this week, or tonight, we just finished our operations night where we had mentioned last week that we weren't killing Torque on hard mode, on veteran mode in Ravagers, and everyone told us, well, because you're trying to do the mechanics, don't do the mechanics. So we didn't do the mechanics, and we got Torque down. So now we get to play with Master. Which now that I think about it
is ironic because Torque is a mechanic. So
he has a giant wrench. You're right. So yes, we got to play with not Master and Blaster, just Blaster.
just Blaster. Yeah.
And we didn't know this because we'd never been killed by Blaster before, but he actually says when he kills you, he says, "Would you look at that? Didn't even need the boss." So anyway, that was fun. Then we went and did a quick run of EV for everyone who had that the weekly priority for Outer Rim operations.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun, but actually not going to talk anymore because I'm excited that Marcus is here. So Marcus, how are you doing? What are you up to this week?
That's a loaded question because I'm so busy. So I'm on a Monday pub side team. Shh, don't tell anybody. And we're actually working on hard mode Ravagers, and we're in burn phase for Master Blaster. So the audio stuff that he says, like when you die and he calls you a dunderhead, after you hear that about 400 times, you're gonna be like, oh my god,
it's not cute anymore. At some
right?
Point.
Or everything is going great, and then they drop the most terrible rain of pain on you ever, and it's always like you're running from one side of the map to the other, and then somebody dies and you can't res them. I personally like the Master Blaster fight better than Revan, but that's me. Other than that, we did a awesome May the 4th stream with the other SWTOR content creators who were around.
Yeah, that looked awesome.
We did Nightmare Dread Fortress, and SWTORista set up this thing for the fan community site she has with a random generator for each person. So there was 3 streamers, myself, Lady Ran, and Elsha. And the code would, so if you went to the website, it would just be a random generator who it gave you to go to their stream channel. And it was super awesome. I got to maraud, which I haven't marauded in forever. And a couple days before, I was getting my gear right and my rotation right. In typical marauder fashion, we were on Draxus, and somebody said, "Okay, we're ready," and I just leaped in, and I was like, "Oops."
I got to see that moment.
Yeah, that was very classic. And but other than that, we just finished recording Working Class Nerds episode 105 tonight. We had an awesome guest, Atrax, and we talked Bad Batch that just got released on Disney Plus, which is the kind of extension of Clone Wars. All the feels came out during that.
Cool.
And
now, have you seen all of Clone Wars?
Yes.
So the Bad Batch builds on that, right?
Correct.
So should I watch Clone Wars first? Because I haven't really done that yet.
You haven't seen it all?
It's a lot.
No, it is a lot.
Content.
Yeah, it's like 25 episodes per season.
I wouldn't say. It's probably not. It's not required. I mean, they're part of, but they're not in all that much of Clone Wars. They're not like continuing characters. They're a spin-off, and they were just sort of one batch of clones, and not even the main clones as part of Clone Wars.
Right.
So.
If I could go back and I didn't see the Clone Wars, I would find the episodes that those clones were in it, and then I would probably watch that and then start it. But either way, there's people in it in the new show that are iconic to A New Hope. So for me, it's it's fun. A really good show. Yeah, it's worth watching. And
I will.
And then like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 1-year stream anniversary, and I did a 12-hour stream.
Yep.
I've never in my life ever played a video game for 12 hours straight, and let me tell you, it is not easy. That is not an easy feat.
No, doing anything for 12 hours is not easy. So great job getting it done, though.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So Max, what have you been doing?
Hey, thanks for asking.
No problem.
I've been doing Galactic Seasons. I've been, as I said, hardcore on Galactic Seasons. All the objectives, every single thing. I'm doing it. I'm waking up every morning and I'm getting on there, and I'm not liking it. I'm not enjoying myself. But I'm not hating it. It's fine. My point of doing it every day is I want to feel what it feels like to do it all. And there are people that are going to both either want to do it all or feel like they need to do it all, or if you're preferred and not subscribed, you're going to need to do a lot of it. I'm trying to get that feeling of what it feels like to do all of it. And my conclusion is it's a lot. It's a lot. They're sort of like asking a lot for you to do for everything they're sort of offering. But I get it. You don't have to do it all. I mean, that's sort of the point. I can't decide if it's too much, because it's not really clear, the progression to say, I mean, if you do the math, if you like lay it out on a spreadsheet and do the math, or look up what somebody tells you, they could tell you, well, you only need to do like 2 of these things and 1 of these things a week, and then you'll be able to get to. You don't know that, though, as just like a random player coming to the game. So you might think that you need to do all the things, or you might want to do all the things just so you don't, because you haven't done all the math on what you've skipped so far. It seems like a lot to me. As an example, last week I did all the things and I ended up with 14 characters hitting conquest target. I capped a couple characters by the end because I mean with like just a couple thousand, because they were just under the limit. But 14 characters conquest to hit, just along the way of making all of my Galactic Seasons objectives seems like a lot. It seems like a lot to get through those first 9 ranks of Galactic Seasons or whatever. I kind of feel like
I think
they're asking too much of us.
But you're coming to that conclusion by overplaying it.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, yes. And I admit I'm overplaying it, and I'm doing all of what they're asking, but I'm still also thinking about each of the things I do each day. Still, also feels like, even if I'm just doing one day's worth and I ignore the rest of the week, still feels like a lot to me. Five, do 5 dailies on Onderon. That seems like a lot for one
That
daily objective.
that is a lot.
Do 3 heroics. If you're a stealth character and you're really good like us and we know how to do it, you'll get them done really quick. Otherwise, it kind of seems like a lot for one thing.
I'll tell you what, it was
Yeah.
for me. I'm just going to say it. It was such a grind. I logged in. I opened up the Galactic Seasons window. Click. Level 100. I was done.
I know. And you can do that.
Right. And for me, I'm hearing what you're saying. It sounds crazy that I spent 10,000 cartel coins on it, but I look at it like this. I'm going to play this game the way I want to play it.
Yep.
I don't want to ever get an objective week where I get PvP and then the next one I'm going to skip that, and then I get GSF. I don't ever want to feel obligated like it's a job. I think Max said that last week.
I agree.
And that's what it is. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to play this game the way I want. I have the cartel coins. I'm buying my way to the end. So I did.
So I totally hear what you're saying, but I feel like I'm doing the same thing without spending the 10,000 cartel coins.
Right. Because
Sure.
because you're going to see where it gets you. You're just going to relax
Yeah,
into
and
it,
then
which is really
when I get to the
real way to
end,
do it.
if I haven't made it to 100, it's really a test, right? Like maybe I'll make it to 100 without,
Yeah.
but maybe I will. And also by waiting to the end, I can ask myself, do I want to spend do I want that last few
Right.
things to click on and claim? Maybe I will, because I think isn't that where I don't know, because
No, there's not
the
much
stronghold
there.
you buy with the tokens, and I could just get a few more tokens the next season.
But yeah, like halfway through the season, you'll have enough to buy the stronghold because it's 8 out of 15. You get the companion and the mount right away. So, I mean, you'll be missing out on like a couple extra tokens. But yeah. So yeah, Seema's doing it the right way.
I don't know about that.
But I'm as I said, I'm purposefully doing it the wrong way to see when I break. to see what my breaking point is, where I just cannot stand it anymore and I'm not going to do it. I think I can't take it anymore. So
I think though that they have actually hit on something that feels like a value add to be subbed, which they've been sort of trying to do and dancing around and not really coming up with anything. And so if people are interested in Galactic Seasons and it inspires them to sub so that they can not do the big grind that you're doing, because what you're doing is what a preferred player would be doing.
Right.
If they wanted to play Galactic Seasons, because they have much less of a margin to play around with.
But
right,
even they have some and don't have to be doing what I'm doing.
Big one for the thing that I see with this is they're basically giving all the options. Like, look at us three. All three of us have a different point of view.
Yeah.
Right. So I just wanted it done because the way I am, it would bother me that if I log in and I do something for a whole week and my Galactic Season level doesn't move because I didn't do the objectives that they tell me to do.
Mm-hmm.
That would bother me. So I said, I'm done with it. I'm just going to get it. I'm done. And now I'm completely relaxed about it. Max is doing things that he doesn't really want to do. And Seema, you're just doing what you want to do. And at the end, you're going to say, okay, do I need to do this? Really, all you need is those enough tokens to buy the stronghold, which is like half the season. You don't actually need to get to level 100 unless you want all of those tokens.
Yeah.
Right.
And for the subs, I do agree with you because the sub bonuses are big. And a lot of people in my community that watch the streams, they're saying they've never seen Black Hole so busy. And they're seeing parts of this game that people are in that they haven't seen people in years. So
Yeah.
if you're talking about driving people to an area of the game that hasn't been used, there's almost mothballs on it.
Yeah.
Then, you know what I mean? Then
So
it's
far
doing good.
It's been good for the community. So
And
I would definitely say that.
not only that, it's the modern thing to do in games right now. It's like,
Yes. Well,
so
yeah.
I know I'm not saying that you like it, but a lot of games, it's like it's a popular thing for gaming companies to be doing right now, and so they don't have to. At least it's
Yeah.
not an
Yeah, I
old-fashioned
mean,
idea.
yeah. And I think that's the worst part of it, though. I mean, if loot boxes weren't illegal, that's what they would be doing. They're only doing it because this is the thing you can do, because you can't do loot boxes, and this is the most Skinner box way to keep people engaged that they can manage without being regulated out of existence. So,
But it's
but it's working,
money.
and people are having
Yes.
fun. And as we've said many times before, even if you trick me into having fun, that's fine, because I'm often having fun, and we've got a lot
Yeah.
of people engaged. We've been adding like dozens of people to the guild almost on a daily basis. I keep having to like get g-kick old unplayed alts, so it has been good. All right, well, this wasn't supposed to be the
Yeah.
GS summary cast, but there you
But-
go.
But it's interesting, Max, because we're all three of us are playing a different way, and it's actually
Yes.
good to hear our three different views
We each
on
have
it.
a point of view, and so you're saying Galactic Seasons works from a certain point of view.
Yes. Well, because like Seema said, other games are doing it. It clearly works for Call of Duty. And when I buy the Battle Pass, they don't charge a sub, but you pay the $10 for the Battle Pass, or you pay 20 to get like 20 levels skipped, and you get the weapon. I'm doing my quotation marks for the weapon.
It clearly works.
Yes, so it
Well,
works.
I was telling Max earlier this week, Candy Crush has the same thing.
Yes, Candy Crush now has a Battle Pass. I mean, the addictive quality of opioids clearly works, and I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing. All right, let's move on to the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
All right, first up in the news, we were supposed to get a patch this week, but the news headline is it's been delayed. We're not exactly sure why it's been delayed. I'm sure they've got some tweaking. It's a bug fix patch. There are problems with Galactic Seasons in particular that they want to get fixed. They will let us know as soon as they can of when that patch is going to go in. Seema,
And-
what was supposed to be in that patch?
So yes, like you're very right. It's a bunch of bug fixes, some sort of infamous ones, like to fix the weekly reset timer for Galactic Seasons so it matches the weekly reset timer for Conquest and other in-game things. Apparently, it's 8 hours off. So now we'll be back to the regular reset time, which is 12 p.m. UTC on Tuesdays, which is 8 a.m. my time, which is Eastern time in North America, in the United States. So that also, they've taken all the companions off the Galactic Seasons vendor because something was not working right. Not everyone was getting the alliance alerts, and so those are gone until they can fix that. Here's an interesting one. Rerolling a priority objective is no longer granting a completed priority objective as intended. I did not benefit from that. Like I've re-rolled my weekly one both weeks, but yeah, that'll be fixed. They're also going to fix it so that Geonosians do count as insectoids.
Yeah,
What?
that's actually Sten ran into that one tonight, which
Yeah.
is he
So
re-rolled, got a completed one, and did not get the points for it. So that's
Well,
the
that's not
biggest
good.
problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. They fix things like I guess if you did a veteran mode flashpoint and you were level 71 and above, it didn't always count towards a progress. So that's one of the things that are going to be fixed. Some heroic missions were not counting against the daily priority objective, including my favorite heroic, which is on Belsavis, Jungle Flight. I didn't know that didn't count. I was definitely going to do that because it takes 1 minute. Also, some one-time missions that weren't counting will now count. Some stuff on Osis. There were some things where defeating enemies was not always counted against the specific daily priority objectives.
Mm-hmm.
There was a weird bug with if you use the random mount ability, but before entering a flashpoint, then it disabled your ability to use rocket boost for the whole flashpoint, which is that's funny to me.
Rocket boots.
Yeah.
And so just a number of bug fixes like that. So I think it'll be a good patch when it comes, or I'm sure it's going to come.
Yeah.
They also made one last note in the patch notes about some things that have already been fixed in a hot fix that was deployed last week. So
Yep. So hopefully we'll get
Looking
that
forward to
soon
that.
and get this stuff and more straightened out, because I'm sure there'll be more tweaks as they go along.
yeah, there will. Yeah, I'm sure.
Speaking of tweaks, Chris Schmidt posted a note in the dev tracker. You can look it up, and said, hey, one of the things that went in with 6.3 is a change to the PvP brackets. And they went from 3 brackets, which is sort of the level ranges of people that are grouped up together to do PvP together. They went from 3 down to 2. So it used to be 3, there was 10 to 42, 43 to 74, and then the level 75. They grouped everything under 75 into one bracket now, and 75 into its own bracket, of course. There's split, and we were talking with Kogas in the chat room before the podcast. The feedback on this seems relatively split. Some people think it's okay because the point is for those low B brackets, 10 to 74, to get queues popping more often, to get more, to actually have games happening, and not have any of those bracket ranges that are dead. The downside, though, is you do have level 10 people playing against level 74 people, and that can potentially be kind of rough and unbalanced in a lot of ways. So we'll have to see how it plays out. They're continuing to tweak it out. And if you read this post in more detail, Chris says this isn't necessarily the only thing that they're going to do. They're looking at more. They're trying to make the everything more vibrant and get it out. The chat room is saying, Sir Galahard is saying that 6.3a did release. No, so Galahard, the patch notes are out. The patch did not go in. They were not able to get the maintenance. So the patch notes are available to us, but 6.3a is not yet released. How about May the 4th? That is still going on, isn't it, Seema?
Yeah, so you can log in, get your, I think it's an astromech. Maybe you can jump in
Seema.
here.
How many times am I going to get yelled at in the last week? Seema said it was an astromech. She said it was a bad batch astromech, Max, and then you came and said that she wasn't. Right, I get it. It was wrong. Seema knew what she was talking about, and I'm an idiot. This is true. Is this a surprise to anyone?
But the big thing is double XP. The big fun. Well, for me, double XP. But then there's also double renown and double valor. So that's going on until the 18th.
Yes.
Can we talk about the astromech, please?
Sure.
That astromech paint job is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Out of all the astromechs they've given us, I think that's the best paint job, at least.
Yeah.
And I think now it's just tradition that they have to give us one of those astromechs.
Sure.
I agree.
Which is fine, but you're right. I think throughout the game they're getting better and better with the textures, the paint jobs, the addition on top of the polygons that they put in the game, better and better and better.
Yep.
The enclave, if you just spend time just like looking at every nook and cranny and every texture and every surface in the enclave in the newest Flashpoint, it is amazing. It is really well done. So here we are in front of Temple of Sacrifice. You look at these rocks, they're pretty nice. It's pretty nice texture, but it's relatively flat. I mean, you can sort of see the edges of the polygons to see these sharp edges. Not, that doesn't look like a rock when you sort of zoom in. Inside the enclave, the textures, the paint jobs, the surfaces, just really, really well done. And then that astromech is another example. Really, really nice texture and paint job. And I've always appreciated that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're right, Marcus. One other thing in addition to the double XP, double renown, double valor that's going on right now is an unlock sale. When does the unlock sale end? It's probably ended right now if it's me asking. it's
I
probably
was just
ended
thinking, because I was
2 weeks ago.
actually thinking, is the Narshada nightlife event still
Yes,
going on?
it's still going on. Unlock sale is a great opportunity to take anything in your collections already and unlock it for all the rest of the characters in your legacy. I very often take advantage of the unlock sales, and there's few things that I want to even unlock anymore these days. So if you see all of these things unlocked for my legacy, you can go
So
in
the
here,
unlock
and a lot of them are
sale,
cheap, which is great.
it's meant to be 1 week starting on May the 4th, so
Okay,
still got a few more days.
so there we go. Guild and community news. What do we got going on there, Seema? Which is going to relate to our discussion here coming up in just a bit.
Well, I mean, it does. Okay.
Our Friday schedules.
Okay.
Because next Friday.
Our Friday schedules, yes.
It
Yes,
starts.
as we've mentioned before, we have a new monthly schedule for our Friday nights. So it's the same every month. So the first Friday of the month is Master Mode Flashpoints. The second Friday of the month is the Hard Mode Ops Training with Marcus, and that's what one of the things we're gonna touch on in a bit. Then the third Friday is the achievements. The fourth Friday is Mega, and the fifth Friday. Oh yeah.
It's Friday. It's Mega. It's the monthly epic guild activity.
Did Nick leave?
That was
Nick,
good.
Nick's
Nick
gone.
left, didn't he?
That was
Nick
good.
left.
That was good.
But
Yeah.
that worked. That was good.
Every time he does it, I just laugh so hard because he gets so excited. He's like the dog, like waiting for the dog treat. His tail's wagging in the chair, like
There
waiting
you
for
go.
his time to
Just
talk
do my
about it.
thing.
Yes.
Do my mega moment. Nick's mega moment.
Yes, I like that. Can I just do one more shout out for the guild?
Yeah.
Shout out to BC.
Yeah,
He has
absolutely.
taken mandatory fun nights where the fun is mandatory but attendance is not, and taken it to the next level.
He really
because
has.
when he took over, they switched up Conquest. They have switched Conquest like 3 times, and before that next week comes, he already has a plan, and he's like, okay, this is how we're going to adapt to this change. And he has done such a fantastic job with it that I just wanted to make sure we give him some credit, because that is herding cats is not an easy thing, but then with all the changes that happen, that makes it even harder.
So we have an amazing set of leaders across all of our divisions in SWTOR. And the only just for people don't know, the only reason we put someone in an officer position is if there's sort of a job to do. We don't just, it's not a reward. In fact, it's not a reward because you have work to do. So BC was brought on to focus on MFNs and conquest, and sort of like running the conquest. What are we going to invade? When might we try to win a planet? What would be the strategy when we do that? And you're absolutely right. He has done an amazing job in planning out those mandatory fun nights on Tuesday nights, all of the way that we tie that into conquest, and then he also plans out the conquest strategy. We don't often go after a planet, but when we do, he's got the plan, a month in advance of how we're going to do it, what we're going to go after. And you can see here, I mean, because of what we did, we invaded a large planet, and by the end of Tuesday night, so Tuesday afternoon, we invaded a large planet. By the end of Tuesday night, we had hit our conquest target on the Imperial side for the guild, and we are now at almost 20 million conquest points for our Imperial side. We're not even paying attention to conquest. It's just the stuff that BC has planned out and how we're all sort of having fun along the way. So good
And
call
it is
out
a
there.
lot of cat herding, and the way we do it too is if you want to and you've hit conquest target, you can just switch to a new character if you want, and then you catch up with us on another planet, and it runs so smoothly.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
Yeah,
And then he's even been folding some Galactic Season stuff into it, which is crazy ambitious
and hard, and you're right, and it's
Yeah.
difficult because in a group of what we had almost 24 people, not everybody gets credit for each kill when you're trying to kill insectoids on Tatooine, for example. But still, he arranged it where we were able to rotate in and out. Everyone, I mean, from the AI way, everyone is really responsive to following,
helping others out.
helping out. Everyone's like holding back. I don't need it. You tag the mobs. Let's make sure you get credit. And everyone's fine with going around, 3 or 4 times to make sure everybody gets their objectives done. So yeah, it's really been excellent. Hey, just other shout outs. Tons of other things going on across all of our other divisions in AIE, AIE-guild.org. If you want to play any of the major MMOs, tons of stuff going on in Final Fantasy. I've been back in ESO this week. I reset my build and my champion points on my sorcerer finally, and ran a couple dungeons in ESO. Valheim, we're going to have another boss night coming up. I think it's only Corley and I lately, but we've been in No Man's Sky. We had tonight, so it's only once a month, and you missed it if you're listening to this now, but be ready for next month, our board game tabletop group. Each month is a different tabletop game. For complete noob, you don't need to have anything or do anything or know anything. You can join Albus and DP Roberts and Velasquez, who are tabletop experts, and they'll walk you through stuff. I think they're still looking for people. We're still trying to hype it up because there was a lot of people that were really interested, but we haven't sort of gotten the momentum going for that just yet. So if you have any interest there, make sure it's going. And then certainly another highlight has been our D&D. You got any D&D notes for us tonight, Seema? Any other fools you've been trying to lightning in the face?
my D&D night is once a month, so no, nothing new since last week.
Okay.
But that's perfect for me because it's not a huge commitment.
Right. Again, really well organized groups and team leaders going off and doing that kind of stuff for us.
Can I do one shout out for Mega?
Yes.
Of course.
So the fourth Friday of every month we're gonna do Mega, but this month
I heard.
Oh yeah.
We are doing Where in the Galaxy is Seema San Diego. It's coming back, and this month she is going to be hidden on Hoth. So bring your winter jackets, bring your goggles, and bring your tauntauns, because we're all going to have to be lukewarm when we find Seema.
I'm going to go find her, man. Even if my tauntaun freezes by the first marker, I'll see you in hell. So
Hoth is one of my favorite planets.
It is great.
So shout out to Lucy.
Yeah.
I said to her, where are we going to go? And she goes, Hoth. Without question, I was like, all right, sunglasses.
Yeah, and then she popped in the
jacket.
officer channel and she said, Seema, I hope you like Hoth, because that's where you're going.
Yep.
Shout out to the chat room. We got a ton of people in there tonight. A ton of people. Hey, everybody. A bunch of usual suspects, which I super appreciate, and then a bunch of new people as well. We'll certainly really appreciate you guys helping us out in the pre-show, checking in, answering some questions all throughout the show, making us seem smart, even though we're just reading the text. Although it's on the video, it's recorded, so people can see when it seems like I said something really smart, and they see it just popped up in the chat window, and it's like, oh no, that was Tabby. Tabby actually knew what was going on there. Max is an idiot. But yeah, we'll catch up with you guys after the show. So thanks so much. I was looking for another drop-in, but I cannot get off of this drop-in to start any segment from now on, I think.
Bet you didn't see this coming!
So tonight, I bet you didn't see this coming. Tonight,
I did not.
the vets are going to talk about vets. Vet mode vets. Who are the vet mode vets? It's us. It's Marcus, who's a vet mode vet, and he's going to talk about the group he's got running, which is next week, and you can be part of that. We're going to talk about the vet mode things we've been doing, and this is sort of a cap to our series. So this is the fourth in a series. We talked already, not last week, but the 3 weeks prior to that, 3 different sets of vet mode topics. We talked about gearing. We talked about rotations and what that means and how to use your abilities and why you need to tune it up for vet modes. And we talked about fight strategies and sort of what's different and what does it look like between story modes and vet modes. So we're going to touch on each of those things with Marcus in particular, because Marcus has been doing a lot lately. And then we'll do a little bit of Q&A on a couple other topics. And we'll certainly talk about the vet mode group that we have running once a month on one of our Fridays, which is always set for our second Friday, not the first Friday, Marcus. Marcus tried to wedge it in this week in Discord, and we had to say, Marcus, no, it's next week.
Next week.
But it is open. And the idea is if you're interested, you don't do vet modes that often, but you're experienced with operations and you want to sort of see what it's like and maybe get some tips and try it out. We'll talk about that a little bit. So let's start off by backing it up. We'll back it up a bit. I think the first one we did was rotations. So what the idea of that podcast was, and you can back it up and listen to that in detail, but we said there's a difference between, just using your abilities, pressing the buttons that light up, and doing a fair amount of damage and getting through story mode content. Once you start getting to the harder mode content, like tonight we were doing torque, and we did torque in the way that we just wanted to burst down torque and ignore sort of the rest of the mechanics because they're very, very difficult to do. You need a higher level of DPS. You need to be sort of getting the most out of your class. Rotations are something that then you need to potentially discover or learn or understand about how your class lines up its abilities, uses abilities to charge up other abilities, using them in the right order, using your resources optimally. That's what your rotation is. So Marcus, I wanted to sort of ask you, as you've been running either any of your vet mode groups that you just normally run in, or the group that you're running once a week for the guild on Fridays, do you get into support, like either supporting people with resources or asking about people's rotations or damage? I mean, how much are you getting into like damage meters and some of the content that you're doing?
So the first training ops, we didn't have star parse. I didn't make one, but we will for this one, so I can actually see the numbers. We had a couple vets in there, so I just thought, okay, we have a veteran healer, a veteran DPS, and a veteran tank with me, and one, we'll be fine. But really, it was a learning experience for me because I've never taught a team. Well, actually, that's a lie, but it was more of a learning experience because you're putting 7 other people with me into a raid that have never done hard mode, or if they have, they've never raided together. And the difficulty climb between story mode and hard mode is a big jump, and being able to teach that and talk about a rotation, that's why one of the requirements is the clear it in story mode, because you'll know what you have to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't really talk about rotations much because I don't know a lot about a lot of other classes. I pretty much know a jug tank and PT tank and a marauder. It's pretty much all I know.
Yeah.
When it comes to that stuff.
So I wouldn't, with a group, I wouldn't presume, unless it's a class I play very often, to suggest someone else's rotation, unless I knew it in great detail. What I would potentially do, though, for people is ensure everyone has the resources, the pointers. And we've talked about this before. In fact, Merlin was in the chat room earlier. Guides like Merlin's guides, which says, here are all of your abilities. Here's a recommended rotation What I would, what we said in our podcast was, I would give that to each person and say, take a look at this. There's a reason for this. There's science behind why this is a rotation and why these abilities line up this way. Check it out, and you'll learn a lot about your class if you haven't ever looked at why the rotations are these rotations. Do you have specific resources that you recommend to everyone? We've got a bunch pinned in Discord, and that's probably a great place to start.
I would pretty much all I really recommend to anybody is go to the Theory Crafters Discord, because you're going to get the rotations, your gear set, everything that is the best for the class. And you're basically going to have one of the best players of each class that gives you their rotation and tells you what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a really good resource.
I think the Theory Crafter Discord is a really good resource. That is not the first place I would send people, though. It's something like Merlin's guides, or or one of the build sites, or Zamzam's here's your class guide is going to be much more digestible. The Theory Crafter Discord is really, really good, but it's sort of like, it's jumping into the deep end. So
Right. Plus, they disagree with each other on the fine points. So if you're reading through it, it's a little overwhelming if you don't already know like the basics.
Well, they in each section, like the jug tank or the immortal tank, immortal jug, they have the pinned message, which is basically the rotation I'm doing and the gear stats and stuff like that.
Yeah. Gotcha. So that pinned message is great. And then we have the one guild called Stroke My Wookiee, that has all of those collected up into one, into one page for all of those classes. You're right. That pin post is the way to go. But yeah, right. Seema, to your point, just trying to read through the discussion that's going on, your head will start to spin. Wait, so
100%.
So am I an idiot for having 1.4 second global cooldown and not 1.3, or am I brilliant, or because these two guys are hashing it out, and I have no idea what they're talking about now. So that was rotations. That was the first one. Gearing was the second one.
Your favorite. Stat talk.
So maybe I will shut up. Seema. We talked a little bit about gearing, and how far you need to go. What is your continuing view, even after we were talking about it in previous weeks, Seema, on how far people really need to go here, like in terms of amplifiers and min-maxing and that kind of stuff for hard modes? And then we can ask Marcus on what he's done with his people. Are you there, Seema? You're muted.
I did mute myself. Sorry.
Seema rage quit. Stupid stat talk. That's it. I hear
I'm not
coming.
doing it again.
Stat talks coming down the tracks. I am out of here.
Yep.
So I was just saying that gearing, in a way, is everybody's favorite topic, right? Because that's what we do in MMOs, is we chase after better and better gear.
True.
For me, though, I do not play the amplifier game. I mean, I might have to change that if we get much further into doing better mode stuff, but I have not looked at. I mean, that is too small of a difference for me to spend the time and effort and credits to go after. But that's just me. Like
and
people.
Right, and the content level that we're at, and where we're at, we're not running into any healing walls.
Right.
If we did, and we needed to squeak out an extra 1% or 0.5% or something,
then I would do it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've rolled most of my amplifiers to at least the purple level for what I need. So I need armor pen on my Apex Predator set, and I needed periodic whatever the dot the periodic, not periodic restoration, but whatever the other one was for the IO set for concentrated fire. I got them all to at least to the purple or gold level, just because it was the thing to do. The update that periodic intensity, thank you, Merlin. The update that they did where each week the roll cost resets has been nice, because then I can log in on Tuesday morning, and if there's still something that's like blue, I can get it to purple, or something that's purple, I can roll it at least a few times at 400k each to try to get it to gold, or get it to the gold one I want. But I haven't gotten everything to 100% min max, because it's really not necessary. And you're getting to like a 0.1% difference if you're like going from
But sort of backing it up a little bit, if you're still wearing like the Onderonian gear or the Victor's gear set, it is worth it to get your best in slot set.
Yes.
And your best in slot
because then you're
tacticals.
talking
There's
like
probably 2
10,
tacticals.
15%
Yeah,
to get your
right.
set bonus.
And it's not hard.
Yeah.
For most people, it's not hard. You can just buy it.
Right. There will be a set that you can get easily. There might be a best set that's another couple percent better. That might be difficult to get for some of the classes. Like Apex Predator was hard for me to get. Concentrated Fire is a better set for Innovative Ordnance. So when I had the Concentrated Fire set, I was playing Innovative Ordnance, and I did not play Arsenal because I did not have Apex Predator, so that was fine. So even in the Theory Crafter guides, you'll see use this set or this set if you can get it kind of thing. So that is fine. So Marcus, for you, are you working on gear with people? Are you helping gear people up, or like telling them the gear that they should get, or even like inspecting them? Because that's always been a thing, even in lots of MMOs, is not letting people into your group if you inspect them and look at what their gear is and what their item level is, and kicking them on out of there. You get up on out of here because your gear is not good enough.
I inspect everybody's gear just so I know, but what I believe is if you've cleared it in story modes and you're in all 306, and if you have your set bonus but you don't have things maxed, that's okay. You don't really need to be perfect in hard mode. Believe it or not, you can beat a hard mode in just basic no augment 306 gear, no problem, if you know the fights. Hard mode is really for teaching people, okay, so there's a rotation that you need to start looking at your gear stats, and so I've done a couple hard modes, or I'm working on one. What can I do better? Why is Max doing 15,000 DPS and I'm only doing 8? Well, that's because he has a set bonus and he has all of his augments correct. Well, what's an augment? Well, let me explain it to you. Which augments do I need? And when you can almost rely on people and help them, say, look, at you do these things, you're just going to get better and learn your rotation, it gets easier. When you get into, oh, that's terrible, Max, you spilled your beer.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
that's why I was off camera there for a second. I opened this beer and it foamed up and spilled beer all over my desk. So now I'm like wiping up with a t-shirt that was here.
But back to your amplifiers talk, you don't really need to max your amplifiers for hard mode. When you get into Nightmare, they're saying now, and this is the Nightmare community is saying, Nightmare raids right now in the 6.0 series, 6.0 era is the hardest they've ever been, because they've taken all of the stat boosts off. They're the veteran stacks where it's never been like that. So
right.
Nightmare is at the hardest level right now, but now they're starting to come out with that extra gear, the higher augments and this and that. So it's going to start to get easier. But when 6.0 first came out, it was really tough. And that's why most of the Nightmare teams say, look, you have to have purple or gold amplifiers. You have to have your set bonus. You have to have 286 augments in order to clear the content.
Right.
That's a great perspective right there.
But at the same time, hard mode is the way we're running this training thing is it's not about it. You got to have 306 gear. You got to be level 75. And I want to take you with me, even if you don't even understand the gearing. We want to take you with us to show you that, look at last time we did the writhing horror. Look at this thing hits really hard. And if you stand in that circle, you're going to die. Where in story mode, you can probably stand in it and Seema is just swearing your name, going, get out of the circle, silly. Get out of the circle, silly. But you can survive because the tick isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Where the tick in hard mode will wipe you out and you're like, why did I die? Well, because you were standing in the stupid.
That's a really good perspective.
Because that, you don't want to intimidate somebody on the front end, but people that want to learn hard mode, they're driven to learn. So once they do it and they see these numbers, or they see like, oh, how come we didn't win and the boss turned flashy red? Well, that's because 5 people on the team didn't have a set bonus, don't know their rotations, or, and they couldn't keep up with what we were doing.
Right. And that's when you get to that point is when is the appropriate time for a group to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't necessarily need to get to it before then. So with each of these things, with each of these topics that we've gone through, there's the rotations, there's the gearing, there's the strats, and there's the resetting of the strats. A lot of groups, and we've been Seema and I have been doing, quote unquote hard mode, vet mode content for 20 years now.
Right.
Seems like it, yeah.
Across MMOs. Not just Star Wars.
Right.
And it's okay to see how far you get, and then once you run into that wall, then you figure out what's next, and you use that use that wall as the challenge to determine as a group, what your next group quest is to get you past that wall. And if it's your tanks are dying because they don't have enough mitigation, well, then maybe you're going to go take the whole group and you're going to go get tank gear. If they're, or support your tanks in getting their gear. Some games, the gear is only dropping from certain bosses, so you would go and do those bosses so that the tanks could get their gear. In the same way here, if you run into say a DPS wall because you're hitting the enrage timer, well, then maybe you'll say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to turn on meters, and where we have gaps in the meters, we're going to get some resources. And we're gonna engage those resources. We're gonna give people coaching, and we'll either look at gear or rotations, and we'll work together as a team to figure it out. And you don't need you don't need everybody doing 110% DPS. You need the group doing enough DPS to exceed and meet the bar to get over and not hit the enrage timer.
Right.
And that's the group coming to each of these walls and challenges is the best way to look at that. Because it's a group challenge. And with something like DPS or healing or tanking in particular, there's more than just the core role that you're doing. You can't look at, a healer and say, hey, your healing isn't as high as this person's healing. You're not doing your job, because there's lots of other things that healers need to do during a fight that might not result in the same number. Same thing for DPS. If you have DPSs whose job is to do maybe a little extra cleansing or some interrupts, those global cooldowns are going to reduce their overall damage for the fight. That's appropriate. If you see that person suddenly doing top damage, that means they didn't do their other job. That's wrong. You need the group to hit a damage target, and then you need all the other mechanics to be flowing through from that as well. So don't laser focus on just, DPS need to do max DPS and healers need to do, overheal to the maximum amount of overhealing, and tanks need to mitigate everything there is to mitigate. That's not how it works. Strategies. So let's do that one. So in terms of fight strategy, we had a thing, and I sort of think of this in terms of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You get into a fight, you're learning the fight. You've got a bunch of people that are doing it, and you try some things out, and you're making progress. You get the boss down to 20% or 15%, 10%, and you just cannot get the rest of the way. And you got to take a step back, and you got to reset the fight strategy. You got to try something else. I mean, we did that tonight with Torque, and said, well, the strategy we've been doing the last couple of weeks, even though we got him down to, to 15% or whatever, the strategy was just not working out. So we said, we're taking a couple steps back. We're going to reset the strategy, and we're going to do it a different way. How much, either to take the monthly group aside, how much have you been running into that on your groups, your vet mode, master mode kind of progression groups, Marcus, where you do something one way for a while and then you realize you just got to break it down and build it back up in a new way?
It's really tough sometimes, and learning a fight is not an easy task. I'll give an example. So a few years ago, we started Death Star Troopers, and we were all 8 of us were story mode raiders. All of us. Actually, one person from the team did hard mode. And I decided that the first hard mode op I wanted to do was Dread Fortress. Killed Nephra, and we progged hard mode Draxus. I'm not kidding when I said it, for 6 months.
Wow.
But you're talking about 7 story mode raiders learning how to hard mode fight, learning that there's mass affliction. You're learning how that you have to interrupt one, but you let one go off. But before that one goes off, you got to kill the healing ad. And then when the guardians come down, you need to spin them around and make sure they don't hit the group, because if they hit the group, everybody's dead. And
Right.
each wave of that fight teaches you another mechanic. But the team was dedicated, and it was a learning experience, and that's what taught me about prog and progression. And what I've learned through these years is everybody has a different idea on what progression is. Where if you're doing a hard mode fight and somebody says, hey, this is prog, I suggest to everybody to always say, well, what does prog mean to your team? Because some people look at prog as, it could be, we're expecting to clear this in 2 weeks. That's our prog. Or, hey, we're in this fight until it's over. And you need to really just have that question and get that answer before you start doing it, because you don't ever, especially if you've never done a fight, again, I'm going to say standing in that red circle in story mode may do nothing. Or in Draxus, I'll give the example. In Draxus, the first part of the fight, you start hitting the boss disappears. There's these little puppies that come running through. They're called SWTORs. In story mode, you just kill them. In hard mode, you have to kill them evenly, because then they explode. And if you're anywhere near that explosion, you're dead. Wipes the group. So just right out of the gate, that first mechanic took us a whole night to learn, maybe even into the second week. And it's expectations when you're doing it.
Right.
And then as you're learning the fight and people get subbed out, that's when you call in the veterans to help you get over that hump. I'll give an example. When we were on Draxus, Kogus in the chat, I messaged him. I was like, look, man, I know you're busy, but we have a DPS down. Could you please come and help us? and he would come and he would help us through the wave that we were struggling on, because once you learn it, it's almost like that light bulb goes off in your head,
Yep.
like ding, oh
And
wow,
Draxus is like a perfect fight for that because there's multiple light bulb
Yeah.
moments.
right, exactly. Oh, all I have to do is that. Well, why didn't I think of that before? Well, because you're not thinking that far ahead. You're thinking, okay, we just got through this one. Now, oh, what's the next wave? You know what I mean? I remember Albus created a spreadsheet that showed each number of the wave, the name of the wave, and what to in the kill order for it. And me teaching the group, I blew it up to full size on my second monitor while I was teaching, because I would be screaming at the top of my lungs, wave 3. But we learned.
Kill the defiler.
And when we right, and you guys know, because you've been doing hard content for a long time, when you finally beat a boss that you've been working on for a long time, people that don't do it don't understand it. That feeling like, holy cow, that was unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not just about one person, it's about the other people on the team. In an 8-man raid, you need 8 people to be successful in order to win.
Yep.
You know, you could be the top DPS, but if your lowest DPS is half of your DPS, Enraged Timer is going to show up. So it's almost like you have to have everybody's back.
Simo, what's the in any game? What's the longest in one of your groups that you worked on a boss? You were sort of stuck on one boss and just over and over and over.
Probably Corruptor 0.
Yeah, that was long for us. That was a couple months, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's because you were not allowed to win.
We did.
Well played,
ultimately.
Marcus. Well played.
The other thing people, and I think I did a boss in WoW back in the day for, I think we did like 3.5 months on a boss. People also need to realize, especially with some bosses and some mechanics and some fights, that the progression is not necessarily linear.
Right.
You know, it's not just, you know, you learn this stage of the fight and you get that down, then you learn this stage of the fight and you get that down. Sometimes it's, you know, as we said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 3 steps forward and all the steps back, and then you're back to just wiping at 90% a couple nights because you changed the strat completely. So
I've done many boss fights and in many different groups where, you know, you're like on the third or fourth week and you go in and you have a really good attempt. You get the boss to like 90%. And then the next attempt is terrible. And then the whole rest of the night, you never get back to 90% again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or also what happens is you kill the boss and everybody cheers and you celebrate. And then in everyone's heads, you go, we got this on farm. Now.
Farm.
And then and then it's another month and a half before you ever kill that boss again, and you go, what the heck, man? Yeah, exactly.
The one thing I will say that I've learned is, at some point when you're progging for a long time, if you're doing 2 hours a night for 2 days a week, because really truly, if you're going to do hard content, I really truly believe that you need 2 nights a week to really get that prog, because your first night is getting you to the boss that you're working on, and then the second night you're actually getting to work on that boss.
Yeah.
The biggest one is understanding when your team is tired. Because for me, you know, knowing that the team is just exhausted or burnt out for the night, calling a night 10 or 15 or 20 minutes early is okay. You know what I mean?
We kind of did that tonight. We killed Torque. We blew Torque up because we figured out a new strategy. We wiped, I think on our 3rd try, and we wiped 2 times quickly, and we said, oh, you cannot ignore the shoots lasers on Torque because they have a 1-shot kill once they build up their stacks. Okay, so we'll do that. And then we had the DPS and we didn't do it, so we burned him that. So then we're trying Master Blaster, and we're just, you know, we're learning it. We're figuring it out. We're making a little bit of progress, but we did about 25 minutes, half hour, just wiping, getting him down to like, we only doing like 30% of his health and damage. And we said, all right, we could just wipe for the rest of the night, or we could reset. We could watch some videos. We could do some research. We could really figure out what we want our strat to be and come back next week and focus on the strat. Let's do something else. Let's stop. Let's do something else. Let's reset this night and, have fun with the group. And we'll come back, and we will come back to this, and we will, do some research or planning or strategy of our own, and we'll come back when we're fresh. And that works really well for us.
Yeah.
One of the things that I remembered that we had done with previous groups, and one of our older ops leaders, Makia, was kind of good about this, is warm up. So this is what I was thinking of, and I don't know if you've done this at all, Marcus, with any of your groups, but you're on your progression. You're doing it. You got to get into a progression night. Everybody's got to be on point and with their rotations and their damage to even get through the first boss in an operation. What he would have us do is go into story mode first and just kill the first boss on story mode, just as a warm up. Remember what this place looks like. Remember how your rotation works. Get a little bit of a warm up going. Now we're limbered up. We got our fingers warmed up. Now we're gonna reset and we're gonna go into vet mode. Have you done that at all?
No,
Marcus, or thought about that?
no, we've never done it, but I've thought like maybe we should. Usually, I try to work really hard to get us a lockout. So if we are only doing one night a week, I try to run something earlier in the week so we can just work on the boss, because like you guys being at Master Blaster, spending that 45 minutes trying to get back to the boss, and then you only have an hour to do it. You might only see you might say to the tank's entrance or exit only once, but you really need that more time on the boss, where that's where the lockout comes in. And but believe it or not, a lot of my teams, the first pull a lot of times is the best pull.
Yeah.
Because everybody is hyper focused on winning. And I've wanted that mount forever.
This one,
the tank mount.
The cyber fractal. Oh, the tank.
No, the tank mount.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
But Merlin in the chat did say it's super important in progression to have patience and a positive team attitude.
Yeah.
To admit mistakes and work together to figure things out. I do agree, and I can't emphasize this enough. So I've been on a Tuesday, Wednesday nightmare team, and I just left it because the nice way to put it is, when things don't go right, a lot of times pointing fingers isn't the best way to win, and you can only listen to that so much. And that's what I try to really promote, is positivity myself. Because look, there's 8 of us. We all have to do our job, right?
Yep.
In order to beat this boss, we all have to do our job. But telling a tank or telling a healer, hey, you're not doing this right and you're the reason why we're not winning, well, that's not necessarily true, because
It also doesn't work.
well, that's correct. So being positive, I would say, is the best thing, and being reliable, always showing up. That means more to a raid leader than being top DPS on the team.
Yes, and being prepared, having your stem, that kind of stuff.
And then
I think vet mode is a really sweet spot for the kind of culture that we run in. For push comes to shove in nightmare, master mode kind of operation progression, world first kind of teams. You will, if you're in that kind of team and that kind of environment, you will get into situations where you'll have to kick people off the team. Hey, sorry, your actions per minute don't exceed the the 1,000 actions per minute that are required
Right.
to do what we need to have done here. We looked at the damage meters, and you just aren't able to, after 2 weeks, get your damage meter up above some threshold. Yes, that does need to happen at the highest tier, but almost all of Star Wars doesn't really need to be that way, and definitely not across vet mode. It's
Yeah.
it's a great place for a team to work together and bring everyone up together. I really like it that way.
But I'm gonna just talk about myself. Hard mode raids, you absolutely, if you're hitting an enrage timer week after week, and there's a player on your team that is doing less numbers than everybody else, that hard choice has to happen. I've asked friends of mine, like personal friends of mine, to leave a team because they're at their plateau. And I put it like this: everybody has their plateau of the rating difficulty you can play, right? I might be at mine at tanking right now. I don't know. And sometimes if you can't do it, it's okay to have to do that. And you explain to them, look how much success we've had. I had one of my closest friends on the team not do it. And I just talked to him and I was like, this is what's happening. And he goes, I understand. I said, but look at the success. You've cleared every hard mode in the entire game with Gods from the Machine, Ravagers, and Revan. Like every other one. How many people in the game can say they've done that? And you put it in that positive light, because people sometimes do have that plateau. And when you're on a progression team, when you start a team like that, you have to let people know that, there may be a time where I'm not doing my job even as a raid leader and I have to go. And you have to always have that in the back of your head that, if you can't.
Right. And I to your point, and to Kogas in the chat room here, hard modes and vet mode in SWTOR it rides that edge, and there you could come to a point where you could end up encountering in that kind of thing with your team or with individuals on the team, and that's okay. I mean, I luckily it's rare in the vet mode area, but you do need to sort of be ready to deal with that if your group is focused on making sure that the progression is more important than keeping the team together.
Right.
But at the modes above that, it's a much more prevalent issue to deal with, and everyone needs to be prepared for it. Now, I think for any team that's getting into this situation and needing to deal with that kind of situation as it comes up, there are ways there are creative things to try before you need to ask somebody to go. And you might still need to ask somebody to go, but there are creative things you can try, like, hey, maybe it's the class and the way you like to play and your style of playing doesn't match up with being a melee DPS in these kind of fights. Maybe we should help you. Maybe we'll take 2 weeks and we'll get you into a ranged DPS class and have you learn the rotation, and we'll help you get some gear, and we'll gear you up, and we'll see if we can get a different kind of value out of you playing your style with this different, so it's just like options like that.
Yes.
To potentially go after.
And being more versatile helps so much. I'll use SEMA as an example. SEMA, you can heal on all 3 classes, right? Or 2 out of the 3?
All of them, I'm sure. Are you muted again, SEMA? Yes, you muted. just drink the water.
Yes, I have been at a point where I played all 3 healing classes. I haven't played anything but my Merc in a while, but I'm pretty confident I could get fresh again.
She can
on
pull
the
out
other
the
2.
oven mitts on her
On my Sage
anytime.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's what I mean. But if one fight is perfect for a merc, but then the next one, you're like, oh, I could, that shield that the operative does, that big AoE heal, that might help the group more than your merc in this one fight. And being able to switch can get the team to that next point of the fight. And being more versatile can really help a team.
Yes.
Well, where that's more likely to happen with healing is if, the other healer is a merc also. Then
Right.
then it's really helpful to be able to have one of the other classes to play along with that merc because of the synergies between classes instead of everyone, hitting the same abilities.
Right.
It's yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. The balance and the synergies and having people be able to switch off and complement each other. I think the role that ends up needing in Star Wars, at least, needing to deal with this the most is the tanks. In fact, that's what we did with Torque. We said, hey, which of you two tanks wants to go play DPS for this fight? This progression vet mode fight, we're going to make one of you not even play your class or your role, but you're going to go play DPS because that's going to help us get through this fight. But tanks, especially going off and having to do DPS or doing, one tank or two tanks or having maybe one of the extra DPS do a taunt here and there. I think tanks have the biggest need for flexibility in that way. But tanks tend to,
And at the
to
higher
be able to do that.
at the higher levels too, higher than where I play, it's really helpful for healers to be able to DPS as well.
Actually that's true too. It's only DPS that are slackers and they just pew pew.
Yeah, but the DPS also have a ton of mechanics to worry about too.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
A lot.
true.
They need. I actually credit DPS a lot because they not only do they have to worry about the mechanics, they have to keep the uptick on the boss numbers really high at all times.
Yeah. No,
Because you
I
can't
agree.
go, oh, I got to go do this mechanic, but I'm going to stop using my blazing bolts because I have to go do it. No, you need to figure out a move while you're walking and you're still shooting to keep that damage per second still up. Because at the end of the fight, when that enrage timer comes, it's basically game over.
Yeah, and on an 8-man team, there's only 4 people DPSing.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm a fan of DPS. I think that's one thing about SWTOR that I really like is that every role is important.
Yeah.
And
It's not like in other games. It's just like the tanks and the healers, and then whatever DPS you can scrounge up. Right? It's not like that in our game.
And that's why I won't really, I've been thinking about this hard mode training team for AIE for a long time. And that's why I really want to do it because we have so many raid teams going in our guild and so many people want to do the harder content.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, let's do it. So now we're doing it once a month, which is the second Friday of every month at 9 to 11. We have our own hard mode ops training group chat sub channel in our Discord. And, we have a sign up. I already started the sign up. And I was a week early because, I forgot that there was 5 Fridays in 1 month. But the whole point of this hard mode training is to give people a taste, right? I'm going to cook you breakfast, but I'm going to leave the bacon and the sausage off the plate. And I'm just going to give you a little taste of it. And if you really like it, you're going to say, oh, I really want to do more. And our goal for the night is let's try to clear the first boss. And last week we cleared the first boss. Last month we did Terror from Beyond and we killed the Writhing Horror. And it took some serious wipes because, maybe the healers weren't used to healing that. One of the healers was like, oh my God, the damage is insane. Or, myself, the tank, I wasn't used to me taking that much damage on the front end, and I was using my cooldowns more. Or the DPS a couple times were like, oh wow, the boss is moving a lot. Oh, one person has to stand in that like puddle with the flower. You know what I mean? Don't move until the ads come to you, all those things. And teaching that gives back to our community, because at the end of the day, we want our community to be active and want to do more. And you never know, this training team could turn into a hard mode team itself as the time goes on. You start getting the usual suspects, as you always say, that are in your chat. The same people start coming back, and they start getting used to it. Now you're not clearing just the first boss, you're clearing the second boss, and now they really want more. Oh wow, I need to see the second boss or the third boss.
Right.
And next thing you know, you're at the apex boss, and they're like, okay, once a month is not enough, we need to do this again.
Yeah.
And that's where that conversation comes.
And this is how new progression op teams are born. Well, hey, I think with that, with mentioning that group coming up next week, we've been talking for a while here. I think that's a good place to wrap us up for tonight. I think. So Marcus, why don't you double down on telling everybody where they can. Well, first of all, aie-guild.org. Go to the Discord in the Discord link in the upper right, and then say again the details of how to sign up for that hard mode team that's coming up next week.
Okay, so hard mode team, it's there in our Discord under the SWTOR section. There's a hard mode ops training channel. I will have a sheet up that basically says each of the 3 roles, and once that spot is filled, it's filled. And then at the same time, right now we're only doing 8-man. Eventually, if this grows to something larger, we can start talking about 16-man.
Sure can.
The requirements for it is I ask you to have 306 gear. It doesn't need to be perfect gear, but you just got to be max level of gear, and I ask that you have cleared it. Well, you're always max level. And I ask that you've cleared it on story mode, because if you've done it in story mode, you have a little bit of the idea of what's going on, and it's what it shows okay, I've done it in story mode, let me do it in hard mode, and we go from there.
So
but other
sign
than
up.
that, but yeah, just sign up, just come, and know that we might spend all night this month or next week. We're going to Explosive Conflict, and the first boss, Tathan Zorn, that is not an easy hard mode to clear the first boss.
No, it is not.
Even though there's a you don't need to do the tank swap, but
you don't
there
in vet mode?
No.
Oh, okay.
I can teach you the way.
Nice.
Or you don't have to even do it in Nightmare. You just don't have to do it.
Ah.
As long as one tank keeps taunting his second Toth jumps, and the other tank doesn't hit the boss during that time.
Zorn,
you can
rip them apart.
Exactly. But it's going to be a really fun experience. And what I love about this is everybody in there, not a lot of people have cleared it, so they're really excited to learn. There's a lot of questions being asked, and you're learning something that you don't realize. And then when you go into story mode, you're like, whoa. Or they say, wow, this is a lot different. Yeah. Because the level jump is so high.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this not live, this is May 14th is the next hard mode ops training night for aie-guild.org. Jump in there, sign up, jump in with us, and yeah, if it went crazy and we had 16 people, we'll do a 16. If we end up with 13 or 14 people, we'll make it 16 as well. I'll jump in there. I'll figure out a way. So yeah, that's coming up on the 14th, and then once a month. And if you're if you're already a vet mode raider, we do have teams that are doing vet modes regularly that need subs, and potentially we have open spots from time to time. So come check us out. Jump in the guild Discord. That's why we've got that all set up, and we got a bunch of teams that are in there doing this kind of stuff all the time. So thank you, Marcus. I think we are about ready to wrap it up for tonight. Where can people find you, Marcus, and what's coming up for you next in the world outside of this podcast?
So the next time you can see me is at twitch.tv/MarcusB814. I stream Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So this coming Saturday. And then we just finished recording episode 105 of Working Class Nerds. So you can find that on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you find the show. And if all this sounds fun to you, go to aie-guild.org. Get our Discord information, top right-hand corner. We play all the games. Whether you just play Star Wars: The Old Republic or any other ones, please come play with us. We would love to have you.
Well done.
So there we go.
Speaking of playing with us, I just want to make a note here. While we were talking, Albus, who runs the board games on once a month on Thursday night, has decided that they're going to try for 2 Thursdays a month. So the next board game night is May 20th. So
Sweet.
if you have any interest in board games, check it out.
We had some amazing board games during our WinterCon. We talked about that on the podcast when it came up. We had some amazing board game sessions. I would love to have that kind of thing continue. So that is great. Thank you, Marcus, for the rundown. Yeah.
I think the most important thing that Marcus said tonight was that it's about the attitude that you bring to the team. And that's what's going to make it fun. That's what's going to make it so that you can do it over and over again. And that's what's going to make you successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that is the end of our Vet Mode series. Thanks, Marcus, for coming on. Thanks for bringing us home on talking about vet modes. Who knows what we'll talk about next? Once you get into your master mode progression, maybe we'll talk about how to really be elite at that point, and how things get really crazy. But
I don't even want to talk about Bestia. Please no.
My pets are legion.
Oh,
Behold.
But for us, our EPC 380 droid is ready to jump on an airlock and broadcast this podcast to all of you. As Marcus said, follow me on Twitter at MaxTheGray. Find out when this podcast is going live. And as he also said, aie-guild.org. The guild link is in the upper right. We've said it about 5 times tonight already. That's why we do this podcast. We're hoping that everyone can come play with us, because it's a lot of fun. And yes,
it's a family.
It is.
It's a family.
It is a community. It is a family.
Yes.
It is very cool. And we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.